I don't know if you can see. I'm testing it out to see if it's working. If there's anyone waiting, could you put in chat whether you can see me or not? You do? Ah, thank God. Thank you, Leanne. Leanne. Hi, Leanne. I'm trying this a little early before the 3 o'clock time because of my lack of confidence as to whether this is, going to be working or not. So I'm just we'll wait till 3, but I'll leave it open. Oh, that's awfully sweet of you, Leanna. Is it Leanne? Leanne, period. Leanne, I hope, yes. And Medat. Hello. Hello, Medat. I'm just up on a little early because of my lack of confidence as to whether these things are actually going to work or not. I had such a bad time with them when I started. But the technical problem was actually quite simple and had really everything to do with using a Safari as opposed to Chrome. Can you believe it? It's as simple as that. Everything works on Chrome, and apparently nothing works on Safari. So I hope everyone's been well out there, and I hope you're well, Leanne and Medat. I'm looking forward to our little chat. This coming, the next 2 chapters are ecstatic. They're about the ecstasy of a mystical vision. And I've seen this type of ecstasy in other religious books. And they tell this story in a very similar manner. They report similar experiences and phenomenon. And many of the religions have been based upon these visions and revelations from their own particular seers, mystics. You're fighting kidney stones. That's quite a fight. Oh, I'm so, well, obviously you're too acidic. Yes, you are. I have a vegan kitchen I used to call it the alkaline kitchen, because the idea is to eat foods that are in the category of being more alkaline. Food is either acidic or alkaline. We in a healthy state are just a little more acidic, just a tad bit more acidic than alkaline. But when we are in a state of ill health, we're very acidic. So it would behoove you to, first of all, I would fast on distilled water, and then I would eat alkaline fruits and vegetables and nothing else for quite a long time, because that's serious. You're winning the battle. Good. I'm glad to hear it. It takes a lot of work. I know. I'm 67. I told you many times I'm 67 years old. And people in my age category, poor darlings, all of them, are suffering with not usually just one, but a whole panoply of ailments. And my heart goes out to them, because when you're young, you feel that you're invincible, that you can play havoc with your diet. Good girl, fast. Fasting is also a prerequisite to clearing your mind of toxins as well. Going into a fast changes the way you think, the nature of your thoughts as well. So it's quite vital to do both a. Look at that. That doesn't work now. See, already things are going like. See, this is a light I have, and I thought it was. I thought I'd charged it, but apparently not. So yes, fasting. Yes, darling, that's very good. No meat. Of course not. No, eating meat is criminal to your body and to the animal. Yes, absolutely criminal to your health. I mean, if you just imagine it, you're eating a dead corpse. You have to be real with yourself, not dress it up in a lot of fancy spices and gravies and this and that to mask what it really is. So I don't necessarily want this to become a vegan I don't want to preach to you. But it's been my experience at this age that, due to the fact that I've been a vegan, that I've taken tremendous effort to always eat well, to sleep well, to exercise, to breathe, and not to imbibe toxins, including pharmaceuticals, that there's no doubt in my mind that you can preserve your well-being, your sense of vitality for an extended period of time beyond which is normal, which is, I'd say, into your 80s, 90s, to be really healthy. People live that long, but they're rarely capable of the physical activities that they were when they were younger. And that's what I'm talking about, is that kind of health. So we've got a minute. And so I'll wait for a few other people to show up. If they do, I realize that I've been bad about starting these things on time. And because I didn't understand how to do the live chat, but now I think I've got it. And so from now on, it won't be that way. So we'll give it a few moments. If you have any comments, any questions before we begin, you're doing just that. I'm glad. Leanne, where are you from? What part of the country or world are you in, Leanne? Oh, wait. I could ask that of you, Madat, as well. There are some chats that are difficult because of the subject matter. Some subjects are much more interesting than others. And it's so fascinating to me that in chapter 1 and 2 of the book that we're reading, the Hermetica, we went through a lament, a prophecy, and a lament about the future of mankind. This was, of course, from the ancient thought and literature of Egypt, how they saw the evolution of human culture, the human psyche, and what was concluded by Hermes is that no longer would philosophy, the love of wisdom, the love of the divine, the deep appreciation of our own being and consciousness, no longer would they be an interesting focus of attention for the majority of people. Everything else would seem more interesting than the nature of reality, the nature of God, the nature of yourself. And it is that way, as if it were some sort of peripheral activity. And as I said, the state of philosophy in academia, as is exemplified by a gentleman named Wittgenstein, sort of the spearhead of a modern philosophical thinking, is just pathetic, really. It's so far away from the true deep love of wisdom, of knowledge that our ancestors had. Ancient India was that way too. Modern India is less so, much less so. It still is far more appreciative of the invisible spiritual world than we are in the West, but still, it has also decayed. And so let's see here. Okay, the mind of Manny. Hello, the mind of Manny. I'll just call you Manny. I think I'm just going to begin. Oh, here we go. I'd like to see this. You were born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, but your parents were from Puerto Rico and have been in Puerto Rico for 30. Isn't that beautiful? Well, they have some. I'm a surfer, you know. I used to have a surfing school in Hawaii. I love the ocean, and the ocean in, though I've never surfed in Puerto Rico, I know that I've had a lot of friends who used to travel there to surf, and they say it's absolutely fantastic. So, Massachusetts, all right, good. So, all right. For the sake of posterity and video archive, we begin. The being of Atum. And if you're new, then Atum is the ancient name of God. And they're using it, as I said before, because it is unfamiliar to us in the West. And consequently, we don't put God in a box, in a descriptive box. We sort of can treat God as a sort of unknown, without form, without qualities. and that will help us. Although, as I said, they still refer to him in the masculine, which prejudices are picturing of God anyway. In this chapter, Hermes attempts to describe God or Atum, although God cannot be defined with words. Hermes gives some clues for us to contemplate. So our authors, call it frickin' frack, give a little introduction to the chapter. So it's not Hermes speaking to us directly, it's their synopsis. God is oneness. Everything is a part of one supreme being. Like the number one, which is the source of all subsequent numbers, God is the source of all. Yet, just as when the number one is divided or multiplied by itself, it remains one. So God constantly remains the oneness. Because he unites everything, his name is paradoxical. He is the creator who creates himself. He is always hidden from us. Yet he is also the world around us. He has no particular name because all names refer to him. God is the supreme mind. He is everywhere and always. The human mind is an image of the supreme mind. Though the power of the imagination, that is, through the power, of the imagination, it can roam the universe and be like God in all times and in all places. Hermes tells us that if we truly understand the extraordinary power of the human mind, we would then know the nature of God. Everything exists as an idea within the mind of God. He creates all things in the same way that our own minds create thoughts. Just as the nature of mind is to think, so the nature of God is to create. This is not something he did at the beginning of time. He is doing it continually. God is constantly creating creation and will never stop. God is both the material object around us and the immaterial thoughts in our minds. The world we see and sense is an illusion. However, compared to the great idea which only exists in the mind, above all are the ideas of goodness and beauty. These qualities belong to God alone. They can at best be found imperfectly in the material world, but exist in their perfection in the immaterial world of the mind. They are so perfect that God is in love with them. God is in love with himself, which brought to mind something that William Blake said. He said, eternity is in love with the productions of time. Eternity is in love with the productions of time. You see, not only is this a spiritual insight into the nature of God, but more, it's an insight into our own nature. You see, what we're going to explore here is the hidden potential of the human psyche, really. The mind, as is compared to the mind of God, our mind, like the mind of God. Thoughts are our testimony to our isness, our being here. They are also what correlates to the power of God, our thoughts, which can, as was stated, immediately transport us to any realm via the vehicle of our imagination. You see, this is speaking to what we are, what we can become, the potential of the human psyche, the deep powers that lay latent because there isn't this realization. There's almost a taking for granted of life when we come. Even in our academic world, even if we study philosophy, we're not really awoken to the nature of who we really are, you see, what we really are on a conscious level, our own God-like qualities within us. And I've been studying, exploring the nature of consciousness, the nature of time, the nature of the cosmos, because they're all a product of our perception. This is the world we find ourselves in. And what Hermes is attempting to do is to bring our attention back to the wonder of who we are. And if that isn't exciting to you, perhaps other things are interesting. But to me, That's the most exciting thing in the world, is to know that within yourself is this hidden divine potential to create. And we're given the world, the universe, the material reality to test it out. So, I hope I can see. All my lights have gone out. It would be that way, wouldn't it? Hi, Alicia. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Yes, we are reading now from Thrice Great, Hermes, Thrice Great, from his own lips, the being of a tomb. Before I begin, remember, this is coming to you from a very high mystical state. He's translating his vision for us as best he can. Give me your whole awareness and concentrate your thoughts, for knowledge of a tomb's being requires deep insight, which comes only as a gift of grace. I wonder if you know what that means. Comes only as a gift of grace. Grace is a beautiful word, and it's so aesthetic. It's a combination of joy, humility, and insight. It grants grace, you see. It is like a plunging plunging torrent, that's better, of water. It is like a plunging torrent of water whose swiftness outstrips any man who arrives to follow it, leaving behind not only the hearer, but even the teacher himself. Yes, the inner landscape of the psyche, not being governed by the same laws of physics that we have that give us a sense of stability. The inner world has its own physics, and one can get lost in that world of unfamiliar physics. But the remedy to that is grace. To conceive of a tomb is difficult. To define him is impossible. The imperfect and the impermanent cannot easily apprehend the eternally perfected. A tomb is whole and constant. In himself, he's motionless, yet he is self-moving. He is immaculate, incorruptible, and everlasting. He is the supreme absolute reality. He is the supreme, absolute reality, our reality, all reality. He is filled with ideas which are imperceptible to the senses. And with all embracing knowledge, and with all embracing knowledge. Atum is primal mind. And again, I object to the he, but as if it were neutral. He is too great to be called by name Atum. He is hidden, yet obvious everywhere. His being is known through thought alone. Yet we see his form before our eyes. He is bodiless, yet embodied in everything. There is nothing which he is not. He has no name, because all names are his name. He is the unity in all things. So we must know him by all names and call everything Atum. This is before that grave division that happened between us and God, where God was objectified, like a monarch, to rule over us. As free creatures, sensing our innate freedom to be, the picture of God as a monarch, objectively outside of ourselves, our judge and jury, created such a division that the idea of Satan and separate living evil apart from God was a consequence of this philosophical, psychological movement in religion and in philosophy and in science as well. Apparently, because this is ancient Egyptian wisdom and knowledge, our more ancient ancestors still retained a very profound mystical connection to God through the cosmos, through the world, which we have lost in the modern world. And so why I feel this is so beautiful for us to recapture, to own again this healing perspective on God and on ourselves. Yes. He is the root and source of all. Everything has a source except this source itself, which springs from nothing. I'd like to repeat this because it's interesting to me here. We're describing again Otum. He is the root and source of all. Everything has a source except this source itself, which springs from nothing. So he's saying that except for God, everything has a source. And God's source, he is self-made from nothing. The Big Bang reminds me of a picture of the creation of the cosmos from nothing into everything as a mimicry of this aspect of God's being. We, with our rational mind, can indeed, apparently with our mind, with our small mind, can grasp the nature of God. But we certainly can't replace it with our own feeble mathematics and theorizing about the beginning and the end of the cosmos. I think there's an arrogance there. This is what I'm saying, that there's a modern arrogance also that is has so much psychological damage that it can do to the modern psyche. The arrogance, again, instead of bowing in awe before the universe as is subscribed by Hermes, we're arrogant about it. And so let me continue. Atum is complete, like the number one, which remains itself whether multiplied or divided, and yet generates all numbers. Atum is the whole which contains everything. He is one, not two. He is all, not many. The all is not many separate things, but the oneness that subsumes the parts. The all and the one are identical. You think that things are many when you view them as separate. But when you see they all hang on the one and flow from the one, you will realize they are united, linked together, and connected by a chain of being from the highest to the lowest, all subject to the will of a tomb. Now, don't tell me that's not beautiful. That's right, Nitram. This is where humanitarianism, if you're an atheist, you cling to the ethics of your humanitarian principles. You must, because you're really divine. You just don't want to admit it. You see, the ethical part of our being comes from this deep recognition of connection, that all beings, from the lowest to the highest, will conceitedly we think we're the highest. I have my doubts. To the lowest, to the ant, to the amoeba, we are connected. We are God. There is nothing separate. The moment you think that something is separate, you're in the world of illusion, perceptual illusion. Remember, the way to perceive directly God is through your inner world, your inner vision, your inner knowing. The cosmos is one, as the sun is one. I think also here is the birth of the heliocentric model of the universe. There was a keen movement in the days of Pythagoras, particularly. It started, of the worship of the sun per se as a living emblem of the creativity, the life-giving forces of God, and a certain confusion between the two must have happened. I love Pythagoras, by the way, I do. His mother was it's funny, Pythian, a Pythian princess. She was a Delphic oracle, so we have something in common. The cosmos is one as the sun is one, the moon is one, the earth is one. Do you think there are many gods? That's absurd. God is one. A tomb alone is the creator of all that is immortal and all that is mutable. If that seems incredible, just consider yourself. You see, you speak, you hear, you touch, taste, walk, think, and breathe. It is not a different you who does these various things, but one being who does them all. To understand how a tomb makes all things, consider a farmer sowing seeds. Here wheat, there barley. Now planting a vine, then an apple tree. Just as the same man plants all these seeds, so a tomb sows immortality in heaven and change on earth. Throughout the cosmos, he disseminates life and movement, the two great elements that comprise a tomb and his creation. And so everything that is, and so everything that is. A tomb is called father. Again, this is the division, the point at which matriarchy becomes patriarchy. You must keep that in mind too. Science couldn't have happened without that. A tomb is called father because he begets all things. And from his example, the wise hold begetting children the most sacred pursuit of human life. A tomb works with nature within the laws of necessity, causing extinction and renewal, constantly creating creation to display his wisdom. Yet, the things that the eye can see are mere phantoms and illusions. This is interesting again. I love this because in philosophy and science, the debate is always what is real and what is illusory. After all, we are prisoners of our senses, locked into their functioning. They give us the reality, they give us our observations, they give us our conclusions about reality. So we are, in a sense, limited by them as well. So it is difficult for us to put that aside in appreciating the nature of God, his, just to put us into a mood of awe again before the intense reality that we perceive, even if we perceive it less than real. Even the illusion of reality is sacred. So in that battle, we continue. There is nothing which a tomb lacks, so nothing that he desires. And that's Buddhism. To come to think of it. And when you think of it, there is nothing which a tomb lacks, so nothing he desires. So I think about Buddhism because Buddhism is about the eradication of desire. And again, a mimicry of a God state of being in which that you're not again bound by the illusion, but you seek what is real. So you divide yourself from your desires, the desires of the material world. So it's interesting. All of that is, all of these branches of religion and knowledge can so easily spring from here. There is nothing that a tomb can lose, so nothing can cause him grief. A tomb is everything. A tomb makes everything. And everything is a part of a tomb. A tomb, therefore, makes himself. This is a tomb's glory. He is all creative. And this creating is his being. It is very rarely is God described in such awe-inspiring ways. He is all creative. And this creating is his very being. In physics, modern day physics, I don't know if the debate has been resolved yet between the expanding universe, the ever expanding universe, or will that universe then contract back and go back to nothing, to explode out again into everything, pulsing back and forth. The way that physics describes the nature of the universe is, I believe, a way of trying to understand the mind of God. And by allowing one's own mind to humbly accept the created universe, then the secrets of that universe unfold naturally. And I find physics interesting because it's a way the mind has of exploring the world, trying to find out what it is and consequently what we are. And so I appreciate the scientific approach, certainly, but without this ultimate connection this lost connection to admitting that it is a created order that will never get to the heart of how it actually works. So maybe we should conclude with this. Yes, Mitram, the all is the one, and the one is the all. Absolutely, absolutely. When you pull this in to a place where you feel it's reality, then it changes you psychologically. It gives you a sense of wonderment also about your own levels of reality, powers, hidden, incredible features of consciousness not yet realized as a species, you see. But that's where we're going as a species, is further insight in and growing of consciousness. Insight into consciousness helps it to expand out. It is impossible for him ever to stop creating, for a tomb can never cease to be. A tomb is everywhere. Mind cannot be enclosed because everything exists within mind. Nothing is so quick and powerful. Just look at your own experience. Imagine yourself in any foreign land, and quick as your intention, you will be there. Think of the ocean, and there you are. You have not moved as things move, but you have traveled nevertheless. Fly up into the heavens. You won't need wings. Nothing can obstruct you. Not the burning heat of the sun or the swirling planets. Pass on to the limits of creation. Do you want to break out beyond the boundaries of the cosmos? For your mind, even that is possible. Can you sense what power you possess? If you can, do all this. Then, what about your Creator? Try and understand that a tomb is mind. This is how he constrains the cosmos. All things are thoughts, which the Creator thinks. I don't know if you know what remote viewing is. Do you know what remote viewing is out there? Anybody? Remote viewing? Yes. Strangely enough, ironically enough, they say, it was invented or it was honed by the military as a means to spy on the enemy. So they trained people to send their psyche to a specific geographical location, and then to bring back the visual information about that place, visual and auditory, sensorial. This was actually part of the military strategy to penetrate into the Russian secret goings on. It's just ironic to me. But what's interesting is that they trained people through a series of training procedures. They trained normal, average people to do this quite readily. And there's a whole formula, a whole way they market it as well. But what's also interesting is that when you take people off the street and try to teach them new clairvoyant telepathic power, remote viewing happens to be the easiest one to teach people. That's interesting to me, because it must be that it's inherent, that maybe we've already gone through a period in which that sense, because it's sort of like a lost sense, that sense where you could throw your consciousness into another geographical location and make discernment, judgment about it, relevant to perhaps your well-being. The Aborigines in Australia still possess this ability to remote view. It's quite common still in their tribal, when they're still tribal. So I think that what it's saying is that the realization of the nature of God also is the realization of the nature of our own being, and that we have these supernatural, what seem to us supernatural powers, the powers to see into the future, which I think also was something that was much more commonly experienced and acknowledged in society. These are lost attributes. And it's funny because I've also thought, I don't know if you would agree with me, that technology, the emergence of technology, all the wonders and magic, and the way that the technology extends our sensorial reach, expands our awareness. With the television, you can see what's going on the other side of the world in the moment, as you can see me in the moment. These technological advances may have or may be substituting for lost inner telepathic psychic powers that we all used to have as a species, and that we've lost in order to, I think, experiment with this new type of consciousness, a new way of perceiving the world, introduced to us right about the time that this book was written. So that is it. I think if you have something you'd like to discuss about what we've explored, I'll let you do that. Or if you have anything you'd like to talk about really right now, I don't mind at all. I hope you're all well. I hope you enjoyed that, because I certainly loved reading it. No? Oh, you're so quiet and sweet. Well, if you have nothing to say, then maybe everything's been said. Maybe it's all been said. All right. All right. So thank you, everyone, for coming. Nitram, Elisha, Madat, Liane. Madat, that's such a cute name. And I'll see you next time on live book club chat with Ava.